Hello, everyone. Just fixing my curtain, trying to get that reflection, and it won't go away. There we go. Gordon Causey, as always. Uh, very early morning with Candy, always at the ready. Doesn't matter what time it is. If I start a video, Candy's jumping all over it. Shake paw. Let me get the tree ready. Shake paw. Lay down. Speak. 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 Week one today. There you go. Candy is looked after. Thank you for watching. Again, today, it is now the 4th of August, 2024. Just prior, it's 1:29 a.m. So very, very early in the morning or very late at night, if you prefer. I tend to view it as night. I see I have someone watching. Whale Oil Beef has already written a comment in the live chat saying that, I'm asking I'm talking about what is the most pressing, the thing that should cause fear and trembling, the major issue in the world that I'm going to get to. There's so many things happening, so many things occupying our attention right now, and we don't see the forest for the trees. And so I'm going to enumerate what these issues are and then get to what should be the number one primary concern. But before I do, thank you for the 2 thumbs up. Thank you for everyone watching. And if you do like my videos, I'll ask you to do 2 things. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And secondly, if you like what I have to say, if you think that I have something worthwhile to inject into the public discourse and you want to help me out, probably the best thing you can do, aside from subscribing yourself, is to share my content. If you think, I seem to have a number of people who do enjoy my content, so sharing would help me out enormously. Anyway, what are the issues facing that we're confronting in the world today? And I've got kind of a laundry list of them here. The one that's sucking all the oxygen out of the room right now is everything surrounding the Olympics in Paris. I mean, first we had the opening ceremony, and what many view, and myself included. Cryptomeria, thank you. You mention that often, that you share my content on X, or I still call it Twitter. I find X such a weird name. Anyway, the Olympics is sucking all the oxygen out of the room. First, we had the opening ceremony with many people, myself included, believing that the depiction of that obese, plus-sized, I think transgender, I'm not sure. I haven't paid too much attention, but it's widely held that it was depicting that it was a mocking of the Last Supper, with the excuse given that no, we weren't mocking Christianity in the Last Supper. This was a feast of Dionysus, the god of wine and partying, or something like that. And please, to me, it was openly mocking the Christian faith. Not that I'm paying too much attention. The Christian faith gets mocked all the time. And then, of course, now even more current is the boxing. And I just did my most recent video was on that issue, and I'm going to leave it aside because it's just getting too messy and we don't have enough of the facts. The one thing that I would like to know, and we'll probably never know the answer, is what is the chromosomal makeup of these 2 boxers? The one from Algeria, I forget the names, Amain, I think, Khalif, and the other one, I forget the name, I believe from Taiwan. What is their chromosomal makeup? Are they XX or XY? Or do they have mixed up pairs of chromosomes, resulting in a condition that, at least for a long time, was referred to as intersex? And without that information, it's impossible for me to make a judgment call. I have known women who are women who exhibit male behaviors and prefer male dress, and appear somewhat androgynous, like Pat on the old SNL TV show. That was the whole point of it, is Pat was androgynous. You couldn't tell whether Pat was a man or a woman. And it is a genuine, this intersex condition. It does happen. I don't know if that's the case with either of these two boxers. And until I know that, or unless I know that, you're punching in the dark. Cryptomeria, with respect to the Last Supper depiction that people are saying was the Last Supper, didn't get that from it, and just thought it was gross. And not sure what I saw. I think probably a lot of people felt that way. And then Cryptomeria is just mirroring the It's Pat. It's Pat. They had a little theme song for when they would do those episodes. It was cute. It was funny. But art predicting life. You can watch the old Life of Brian by Monty Python. They did a skit at an arena, at a forum, where the members of the Judean People's Front, or the People's Front of Judea, a group that was trying to overthrow the Romans, they were having a little meeting about how it is the right of every man in our movement. And then one of the characters goes, "Or woman, it is his or her right," and keeps interjecting. And this was done back early 70s. And finally, one of them says, "Stan, why do you keep going on about women? You're putting us off." And he goes, "I want to be one." I'm like, "What? From now on, I want you to refer to me as Loretta." And we're like, "Why do you want to be Loretta, Stan?" "Because I want to have babies." "You want to have babies?" It's every man's right to have babies if he wants them. And you can watch it. It's just amazing that which was done as humor, and showing how ridiculous this is now it's become real life. Cryptomeria is typing away. It was satire then. Yeah, it was satire then, and now it's become reality. If I was a big Monty Python fan growing up, and there's another one called The Meaning of Life, where they show birth, and after the baby is born, they show the baby to the mother, and they said, "A boy or a girl?" "I think it's a little early to be imposing gender roles on it, don't you?" And it's become reality. But that's one issue. And I would put it low level. My perspective, it's low level. Another one that percolates in the background is health issues. Health issues. You can talk about bird flu. You can talk about COVID. You can talk about people who are coming forward and with horrific adverse health events that they've experienced that they're blaming on the COVID vaccinations. They're rampant. You can find them every day. I just watched one, heartbreaking. Maybe I should share it. It's a woman, and she's trying to get her story out, so I'll share that. And this is out there a lot if you're paying attention to it. It's not in the mainstream. The mainstream pretty much avoids it. I gotta bring it up though. I think this is worthwhile sharing. It's a TikTok video, and unfortunately, let me see if I can get it queued up so that I can. And I'm going to take you to my Facebook page. So let's go to my Facebook page so you can see this. I'm going to share the screen and go to my Facebook page. Share. I've never done this. I don't think I've ever shared my Facebook page. Boom, boom, boom. There it is. There's my Facebook page. And here's the video. It's loading, loading, loading. And now great. Sorry for all the delays. Okay, it seems to be working. Let's play it.
Before you scroll, I was paralyzed by the COVID-19 shot. You will not hear my story on mainstream media. If you do not believe this story or would like medical proof, you can go to my website at www.opkayla.ca. That's www.opkayla.ca. The Canadian government has left me fending for myself without the necessary treatments offered me MAID, which is medical assistance in dying. That's what they offered me after this was medically proven to be caused by my COVID-19 shot. That is not treatment, that is suicide or euthanasia. I would treat any human being better than that I even disliked. I don't just have to live without my legs anymore. I have to live with massive pain, a lesion in my spine, no bowel or bladder movement, somebody coming to get me dressed every day, to having to be alone in bed when my fire alarm goes off, unable to move. This is not okay. I need help. I'm appealing to anyone on social media to please share this video so that others like me can find help as well. If we don't speak up, we won't get the help. Please go to www.opkayla.ca to get the full story, the medical records, and the audio recording of the doctor telling you that this is related, it directly caused by my COVID-19 vaccine, the Moderna.
And Monarchy is here as well. Hey, Gordon and fellow folks with unacceptable views. We're the fringe. We're the weird. If this world has gone crazy. And I'm curious, will my sharing that video result in this video being taken down? Because that's unacceptable. That's an unacceptable view. There's a lot of the only acceptable view in today's world is that the vaccine saved millions of lives, and that any collateral damage caused is minimal, and that they're now talking about they're referring to anyone who opposes the vaccines, the COVID shots, as being aggressive and hateful. And there's this Dr. Hotez. I'm not sure exactly his name. He's a prominent name on the pro-vax side. He's worked with Bill and Melinda Gates and their foundation, now just, I guess, the Bill Gates Foundation, ever since Bill Gates's wife, Belinda, dumped him for reasons. Was it because of his association with Jeffrey Epstein and that wonderful island he owned and ran? We'll probably never know the answer. But yeah, they're getting aggressive with gaslighting anyone who's normal and exercises plain common sense. And I'm not following stickers on the floor. Oh, you're gonna kill everybody. So, first we have the Olympics. Now we have this background issue of health. Another one would be the climate. That climate is always percolating in the background, and it has been forever. That's been going on since I was in high school. When I was in high school, it was the ozone layer. We were destroying the ozone layer, and that you need to cover yourself in chemicals to protect yourself from the sun, which is where we get vitamin D from. And it's funny. We progressed from the 70s where people would put on sun tanning lotion, which was like coconut oil and things like that to enhance your tan, to putting on chemicals rather than just putting on coconut oil to get a nice deep tan. Now they have you put on chemicals into your skin that basically, I don't believe you get the vitamin D benefit from the sun with that stuff on. And I never wear it now, even when I've gone down to the Caribbean. Now I don't even do the head. I try and build up slowly and then, get a tan going. Don't go out on the first day and spend an hour and a half in the noonday sun swimming without a hat on. Let's catch up. Cryptomeria is writing, it's heartbreaking, obviously referencing the video. Yesterday, I was getting a pizza, and a neighbor, a gentleman I've gone to church with, wonderful man, had just had double bypass surgery. He said one artery was 100% blocked, the other one was 70% blocked, and he had to have bypass surgery done. It's not looking well. My workplace, the level of absenteeism is through the roof, and people having to leave because of medical reasons, having to leave their employment. I already know 3 employees who have had to either take leaves of absence or are now on disability. Younger people, not talking about 70, 80-year-olds here. And Amonarchy, oh, great, we're getting into rights. Apparently, and great, a word, N-acetylcysteine and the enzyme CoQ10 help against the spike. I don't know that. I'm just reading what was written. But anyone sufficiently concerned, unvaxxed, never got a COVID shot. So what do I know? I'm fortunate in the sense that I'm not worried about personally or in my immediate household with the effects of the jabs because I didn't get the darn thing. Doesn't stop infection, doesn't stop transmission. That's firmly established now. You can get it and you can pass it on to others. And then as it gets passed around, they say it keeps mutating and mutating and mutating. And there are individuals in the medical community who are warning that we are going to see the emergence of something serious, and that and talking about things like immunosuppression. And that could, there's a gentleman, his name is Dr. McIntyre. He has a site here on YouTube. It's called VJON Health, VEJON. I would encourage anyone to watch it. And he's talking about a coming storm. And when exactly is going to start next week, next month, 3 months. He doesn't think it is going to be long, but you can't put, when will this evolutionary, the virus, all these variants, all these mutations are constantly occurring. And eventually we could be heading to, he seems to believe that we are heading to something that is seriously going to overwhelm the healthcare system. So there's a big issue. And it's difficult for me to say exactly what I want to say given community standards, and because I'm not a doctor and I have no degrees in medicine or any other scientific field. And so full disclaimer. But for me, it's an open question as to whether or not the COVID vaccines have a suppressive impact on the human immune system. I can't answer that question one way or another. I have my opinion, and you can probably guess what it is, but I'm being cagey because I have to. And so are we? And now they're developing. They gave Moderna 176 million. I think that's the figure. The U.S. government gave Moderna 176 million dollars to fast track the development of a bird flu vaccine. And there is talk that with the way the rhetoric is ramping up about talking about aggressive and hateful anti-vax sentiment and gaslighting anyone who's has what I would view to be genuine and legitimate concerns about taking pharmaceutical products that are being injected that have been developed at warp speed, which is science fiction. Warp speed does not exist. It's a neat little concept. You see it in Star Trek. It's the idea of bending space and time, which another mosquito bites the dust. And then Cryptomeria writes, why I shared you, even if you get a spanking, it's out there. Hey, it's happened before. Cryptomeria brings up acid rain. That was another one, when we go on to the environment. So I'm trying to map out what I think are the big issues that are dominating primarily the media. And number one I had as the Olympics. Number two I had as health. Number three I have as the environment. And the environment's always been out there. The Olympics is kind of current. The health has really come to the fore over the last 4 or 5 years. The environment, acid rain, the ozone layer. Now, when in the 1970s, they were predicting another ice age. Then it became global warming. Now they've branded it as climate change, and it's the most existential threat. But I think that one they have a hard time selling because there's simply too much information out there. You can watch a Jordan Peterson interview that he does with a gentleman who's head of meteorology at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. That's where the Good Will Hunting movie was, centered on. It's one of the world's primary scientific institutions, post-secondary. And this guy was he was head of environmental sciences or meteorology, climate science at University, I think, of Chicago. And then he went to Harvard, and then from Harvard, MIT poached him. And he really tears apart the whole climate narrative. And so I think they're having a hard time selling that one. But then let's go to number 4 of what's dominating the public discourse, and it's the U.S. election cycle. And that's always in the background as well. I mean, as soon as one election ends, the next one starts right away. As soon as Obama got elected in 2008, the Republicans said our job is to make Obama a one-term president. The election starts right away. As soon as and as soon as Biden won, the forces started to try and have him a one-term president, which has succeeded. Biden is a one-termer, like Jimmy Carter, like George H.W. Bush. So, just within the political arena in the U.S., we've had the assassination attempt. We've had Biden stepping down. We've had Kamala Harris being imposed as the candidate. It's funny. I mean, an assassination attempt on a president of the United States, former, but a president of the United States, and it's already old news. It's like 3 weeks ago, and it's almost in the same category as the JFK assassination or the RFK assassination. It's so distant. I say often on this channel how, in politics, a month, even a couple of weeks is a lifetime. That's a prime example. Now we've moved on from the assassination story. And then comes something that surprisingly, and because it's been going on so long now, I think people have forgotten about it to a large degree and haven't been paying attention. And when I go onto my news feed, quite often it's not even the stories about this aren't even included. And of course, I'm talking about the Middle East and the situation. The world is literally right now on the brink of World War III. And that's not hyperbole, that's genuine. Um, Israel has taken out this, I can't remember, trying to remember how to say his name, Hania, something like that, the top political leader of Hamas. They've taken out another individual. Now there's reporting of bombing raids taking place in Lebanon. The US and UK have told their citizens to get on any flight you can, get the heck out of Lebanon now. Israel is becoming incredibly isolated. The US is, as we speak, sending warships into the Mediterranean to back up the Israelis. And we're on the brink. There could be a major attack launched. It strikes me, I believe there are reports out there saying that the Israeli Air Force F-35 bomber or F-35 fighters have inflicted serious damage on airstrips in places like Lebanon and Syria, which is going to impact the ability of groups like Hezbollah to effectively launch attacks on Israel. And it has the markings of 1967 on it all over again. And if you don't know the history of the Arab-Israeli conflicts, 1967, basically, Egypt was threatening to blockade Israeli shipping in the Suez Canal. And whoever the prime minister, I'm not sure, I don't know, I don't think it was still Ben Gurion, but it might have been. But the Israelis basically said that if you blockade our shipping in the Suez Canal, that is a red line, and that will be the term in Latin is casus belli. That will be a declaration of war. If you blockade our shipping, it's a declaration of war. While they made that comment, at the same time, there was reporting both in Israel itself and internationally that Israel was in poor condition to fight a major war, that they were in trouble, that if war came, it was going to go badly for the Israelis. And I think back to Sun Tzu's Art of War and Deception. And one of Sun Tzu's precepts for conducting effective warfare was that when you are strong, when you're in a strong position, that you are to make yourself appear weak. And then the same true in reverse. If you're weak, that's when you want to appear strong. And so while Israel was, even to its own citizens and certainly to the world, openly declaring, I don't know that we're ready, we're not ready for a major war. We've got serious issues. They somewhat emboldened the Egyptians, and then they perhaps took the bait and they blockaded Israeli shipping. And true to their word, Israel had said that would be an open declaration of war. So once their shipping was blockaded, the Israeli Air Force back in 1967 went and slammed the Egyptian Air Force, just about destroyed their entire fleet or whatever, their squadrons of planes. They took them out, they bombed their airfields, and immediately established air superiority. And that was called the 6-Day War. And the end result was they captured territory from the Egyptians. That's when they got the Gaza Strip, as well as the Sinai Peninsula. Egypt was allied with Syria and Jordan, so they joined in the fighting. And from Syria, Israel captured the Golan Heights. And from Jordan, they captured both the West Bank and East Jerusalem. And I thought it was brilliant military strategy. They looked weak. The Egyptians, the Syrians, the Jordanians thought, it's like that animal pretending to be hurt. And so they moved in for the kill and went to blockade their shipping, and they paid the price. That's life, that's war. To the victor go the spoils. It's the way I've always looked at it. But now things are looking like we're heading to another situation like 1967, only it's not 1967 anymore. And now you have Iran with three groups primary, Hezbollah being the biggest, the Houthis down in Yemen, and Hamas, which has been pretty much decimated in Gaza. But there's also Islamic Jihad and other groups in Syria and Iraq. And then you have Turkey now, and their president or prime minister, I'm not sure their system of government. I think he's the president, though. And his name is pronounced, I think it's something like Erdogan or something like that. It's spelled Erdogan, Erdogan, but it's not the way it's pronounced. I don't know how you pronounce it. I don't speak Turkish or Arabic or Hebrew or any of these languages. But at any rate, he's threatening to invade Israel. World War III. We're on the cusp. And I think it could start within hours or even days. Or rather, I should say, could be days away and maybe only hours away. We don't know. But it's coming. I said it right from the start. If you go back to my videos done in the wake of the October 7th attack, I immediately recognized the fact that Iran is allied with Russia, with North Korea, with China. You've got this axis of powers called, frame it however you want. In the Islamic world, it's the axis of resistance. In the Western world, it's often referred to as the axis of evil. It's an axis, it's an alliance. And now you have Turkey joining in with it. Turkey is the old Ottoman Empire. Let me catch up. I've been rambling on. Woohoo, running through the DDT truck missed as in some type of neurotoxin. Yeah. Monarchy is sharing some personal comments. Cryptomaria writes, something is coming. Oh, yeah. Something, and I've already laid out what I believe is coming. I think it's going to be a convoluence. I think it's just going to be an overwhelming of the senses to get us out of our higher thought process, push us back into our animalistic limbic brain, where we become more fight or flight, where we're ruled by our emotions rather than by our intellects. I think it's all coming at once. But it's still, even World War III is not the biggest issue. That's not the biggest issue. I'm going to get onto it just after I get through the comments. I'm going to get caught up. Cryptomaria still has a mask kicking around to play doctor. And deviously navigating the algorithmic restrictions with the way I have to talk about COVID. I can't express my true opinions. I'm just not allowed. And to a degree, I think that's fair enough. Okay, I don't have a medical degree, but I know if I was going all gung-ho on the COVID jabs without a medical degree, that would be allowed. You're only, someone such as myself without the proper accreditation is allowed to express opinions on the COVID vaccines, provided they're positive. You don't have to have medical degrees if you're gonna boost, if you're gonna pump up the COVID jabs. But if you have a negative opinion, keep your mouth shut. And that's how they dominate the public discourse. by clamping down on those who have a negative opinion. And anyone who has a positive opinion, doesn't matter if they have a double-digit IQ, you're allowed to say it. What movie was good? Animanarchy writes, the popularized zeitgeist is a distraction from the machinations being enacted by the higher echelons. You know, when we look at the Great Reset, I mean, I put it out there as, you know, this is what I think is going to happen is that we're going to be hit by so many things: climate, war, supply chain issues, disease, maybe famine, or, you know, food shortages. There's going to be so much coming at us at once. That's what I see happening. And with the ultimate goal being to further the Great Reset agenda, which ultimately wants to install a global dictatorial system, call it communist, call it fascist. It's authoritarian dictatorship, where Joe Schmo, Joe and Jane Nobody, where we are the digital property of our corporate masters, and government's there to hold our leash. And to push us in that direction, they just, you know, they've got to overwhelm our senses so that we can't think straight. Crip Mary says, we are at World War III. Yeah, the term, you know, everyone knows World War I and II. Some contend that the Cold War was World War III. And then some say that the war against Islamic terrorism was World War IV. So you could almost make this World War V in a fashion. But I think we're heading to a major conflict along the lines of more the traditional lines of World War I and World War II, with an added component being that because of the open borders that have been created in so much of the Western world, certainly in the United States and Canada and Western Europe, where people have flooded in. And many are from the Islamic world and are very sympathetic to the what I'll call the Palestinian cause. And so I see very much the potential for terrorism to be thrown in there as well. And that's another great excuse to restrict human rights, to restrict constitutional rights, to restrict the simple rule of law. You know, in Canada, we already had, over a very peaceful, loving protest in Ottawa, they declared what used to be referred to as the War Measures Act. It's now called the Emergency Measures Act, I think. It used to be called the War Measures Act. And it suspends habeas corpus. And that means that habeas corpus, if the police come and they grab me, they have to tell me what I'm being charged with. They just cannot detain me without I have to be given access to a lawyer, legal representation. I must be told the charges or the reason for my being detained or incarcerated. Well, you take it, that's basically encompasses habeas corpus. I love these Latin terms. Impose martial law and habeas corpus gets thrown out the window, and then the police can just grab you, take you off the street, and put you in a jail, and they're not required to tell you why you're there or give you access to legal counsel. It's an emergency. You know, those who sacrifice their liberty for safety will have neither. I'm just going to try and catch up. Animarchy dislikes politics, but thinks it is necessary to at least have a general understanding of local, national, and world events. It's a chore. Please stop crazy warmongers. Unfortunately, we're heading there. War is big business. You know, that was one aspect of the whole COVID thing, in the opinion of many people, was that for many, that was the ultimate goal, was just to sell lots of pharmaceutical products and to fill the coffers of the Modernas, Pfizers, Johnson Johnsons, AstraZenecas of the world. Personally, my own view is I always consider money as always a component, but I think it's a lot bigger than just money. The individuals driving this agenda already have more money than they could ever spend in 100 lifetimes. You got a guy like Bill Gates buying up as much farmland in the United States as he can get his hands on. And the apologetic media will come out and say that it's still a tiny fraction, and it is, but he, I believe, is the single largest owner of farmland in the United States. It's massive, his land holdings. And it's farmland. It's what we need for our food. Anyway, Cryptomir is writing, there's supposed to be something August 12, 13, chatter from the Islamic Front. I would rather be wrong on this one. I would be surprised if it took that long, to be honest. I think, there are still more escalation steps that can happen. Doesn't all have to blow up into all out war at once, but it can just keep ramping up as it has been. Things have been ramping up. And is it going to continue this slow progression, or are we going to have something that blows it up huge? And then even after it blows up huge, then another can blow it up even bigger than that. Could we have China, Russia, North Korea, Turkey, all involved against the United States and other NATO allies? Turkey is a NATO country, but they've kind of broken away from NATO in this sense, broken away from NATO kingpins like the United States. The United States is obviously numero uno in terms of NATO. Britain would be second, I would say. Anyway, continuing to read. Anna Monarchy says, I don't consent to nuclear fallout. Don't want chemicals either. This whole world has gone chemical crazy. Whale oil beef. That you wrote about that Albert Pike letter, 1871. Personally, I think that's a piece of garbage hoax. They say that this letter, I did look into it, that this letter was in the British National Museum until 1977, and then it disappeared. Well, that's convenient. Well, why can't I see it? Well, it doesn't exist. They took it away. Well, can you show me a screenshot of it? Does someone have a picture of this thing that is verifiable? Well, no. And that whale oil, honest opinion, it's someone, if I can make it appear that I was I can make my prediction appear like it's got validity, because I have this document that predicted, but this document, this letter by Albert Pike, I do not believe that such a letter ever existed. Giddy up for the rodeo. Yes, whale. Sharunya wants to buy me a webcam. Oh, you know what? Like I have said so many times, I kind of like the low budget look, the zero production values. So much is packaged in today's world. And guys use different voices, so it sounds. And thank you for tuning in to Act One, my channel where I talk about news and events. Yes, I can do the radio voice if I want, but I don't like to do it because it's not me. That's not the way I sound. But people do that. I have had friends in broadcasting, and they've got their radio voice. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, God. It's funny. And it's fake. And anyway. No, Sharunian, I am not in Guelph. I'm in southeastern Ontario. Guelph is southwestern. That's on the western edge. That's about an hour and a bit from Toronto. It's about as far going the other way. You go Mississauga, Milton, then you get onto Guelph. And Anna Monarchy makes a point, and it's true. With the internet, you practically have the majority of the repository of human knowledge accessible at your fingertips. It's the world's greatest research library, but it's also the world's biggest comic store. And sometimes it's hard to differentiate between what is, Encyclopedia Britannica and what is a Marvel comic, because you can present either one. And there are individuals who, you'll hear someone say in an authoritative voice that in 1871, da 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 da. And if it caters to your bias, if it affirms a belief a pre-existing belief, then there's a tendency to say, that there you go. That proves my point. That proves my point of view. In the time where you most need to dig in and check things out is when something confirms your bias. It's happened to me. I've fallen for it myself. I've seen something, it confirmed my bias. I've shared it out without checking it, and later found out, no, that was faked. That was garbage. But it confirmed my bias, so I believed it. Anamarki lived in Guelph for a summer. I think I may know that house you were at. I had a brother in arms who suffering PTSD, who went to a facility in Guelph. Actually drove him back and forth a couple times. And Anamarki wrote, when I said I don't want chemicals, a bit above autocorrect changed it to chemicals from chemtrails. Oh yeah. Oh no, chemtrails don't exist. And weather modification doesn't exist. And yet Canada, the United States, and numerous countries have signed a treaty that says they will never engage in weather modification. But it doesn't exist. So why would you sign a treaty about something that's impossible anyway? Cryptomeria, the War Measures Act, saying it was the Emergency Act. And they did deem that it was illegally invoked, the Emergencies Act. And yet nothing will happen from it. It's like Trudeau constantly gets charged with ethics violations, found guilty, but nothing happens. Don't do it again. Be a good boy. And then Trudeau goes and breaks another one, and another one, and another one. It's over and over again. No consequences. He should be gone already. Anamarki thinks Guelph had too many sketchy people and stupid college students. What can I say? Well, they call Guelph University MU. It's a big agricultural and veterinary school. So I'm just trying to catch up. Yeah, Sharunian, you're right. In Brighton, little tiny town, 15,000 people. I never even really knew it existed until I moved here in 2015. I'd been to Grafton before, which is even smaller. And I'd been to Trenton many times, down to the base. I did not want to live in Trenton. I found Trenton to be sketchy. Actually, the name of Trenton is actually Quinte West, but everyone calls it Trenton because it's like Oromocto. Oromocto is a base, is the location of Gagetown. And everyone who lives down that way, everyone says, no one says I'm buying a house in Oromocto. They say, I'm buying a place in Gagetown. That's the base. Cryptomeria does live streams without any makeup. Me too. I haven't worn makeup for years. I used to do stage plays, and I hated it. I didn't mind putting the stuff on my head to keep you see the light, the way it bounces off my bald head. That didn't bother me. They put on that base and the powder. The one that bugged me is I hated eye makeup. But if you don't wear eye makeup on stage, they have this Klieg lighting, which is like very intense. And if you're not wearing makeup, you can look like a skeleton on stage. It's like that fluorescent lighting in the bathroom, though, when you go into like a hospital style bathroom where it's all white and very reflective, and that big fluorescent light that shows off every scar, pot mark, acne, pimple spot you've ever had in your life, and you just look horrible. I'm digressing all over the place. Jason King, hey, you're late again, but that's okay. Better late than never. And you're coming to the juiciest part because yes, I did. Sharunians found a live stream I did with Viv Leacock. Yeah. And no, I never wore eyeliner. Oh, but I've done live streams with a number of, with a buddy of mine down in North Carolina. I've done a number. I interviewed Isaac and Gopher from the old Love Boat TV show. Robert Malone, that was a big one. Number of actors. No one really huge. What I call, you ever see the movie Uncle Buck? We interviewed Bug, the guy who played the character of Bug, and I'm trying to remember his name, Jay. I think his name was Jay. And he did a number of other movies too. And he actually, I think he played Sonny in a TV adaptation of Sonny and Cher. Jay Underwood, I think was his name. And even Jim Morris, the guy on whom the movie The Rookie was based with Dennis Quaid, about a 35-year-old science teacher who had gotten out of baseball and then found he could throw 98, 99 miles an hour again and made it all the way to the majors at the age of 35, interviewed him, the actual pitcher, the guy who the movie was based on. A number of different people. And Monarchy writes that, going without makeup is the way to go. I want to be human, not a mannequin. We're already cyborgs enough in this world. Everyone I see lately, especially my age and older, they've all got these little implants either in their ears, not the buds that people wear, but they have it on the frame of their eyeglasses, or it's sitting around the ear. And I keep thinking of the Borg. You will be assimilated. Everyone's becoming cyborgs. And Monarchy writes that apparently the Uncle Buck guy was rude or unpleasant in real life. If you're talking about Jay Underwood, he's actually a Christian pastor now in a rural part of California. And you can find that. It's out there on YouTube and on BitChute or Rumble. It's on these channels. Mark looked after all that stuff. I was just there to lend content because I've got a decent memory, and I've got a lot of life experience in different areas and have a certain degree of a gift for the gab. And Anna Markey writes, and this is good. And as Elon Musk says, our phones make us cyborgs. But Anna Markey disagrees. The thing is, when you carry a cell phone in your pocket all the time, it's got a GPS locator on it. And most of the phones have Siri or Alexa on them, whether you know it or not. And so you're basically tied into the Borg. And I do have a cell phone. I don't have a plan anymore. And this is an old S3. It's over. I got this in like 2014 and I bought it used. And I wanted it primarily for the camera and the video. But I've since canceled the plan. And so it's just there now as a watch and to check the internet on occasion. When I can get onto Wi-Fi, say, at a store or a restaurant or whatever, and I just want to surf. Yeah, John Candy was in that movie. So was Macaulay Culkin. The guy Jay Underwood played a character called Bug, and if you remember Uncle Buck, was brought in to babysit 3 kids. Macaulay Culkin was one, a little girl was another, and then there was an older teenage sister, and Bug was her boyfriend. And he was a slime, and Uncle Buck let him out of the trunk of the car and then hit golf balls at him. So that's who I was involved in an interview with, Jay Underwood, who is now a Christian pastor. All right. Well, let me get on to what I consider the biggest issue. Anyone care to guess what the biggest issue facing the world is today? And I'll say it right now: lack of faith in Christ. Single biggest issue facing the world today, because it doesn't matter what we're confronting, whether we're confronting the insanity at the Olympics, whether we're in the environmental crisis that they're foisting on us, telling us about, whether it's the political machinations unfolding in the United States or elsewhere, whether it's even the prospect of a major war breaking out in the Middle East with the potential to spill out and cause acts of domestic terrorism in places like Canada, US, Europe. Without faith in Christ, you're not going to be able to confront these issues. This is the biggest issue we're facing right now. We live in a faithless world where people rely on their own knowledge, their own understanding, their own belief systems, and they think they can overcome the enemy. And the enemy is coming after us. And you better get into relationship with the maker of all things, with the King of Kings, with the name above every other name. I wanted to read a little passage from the Bible that speaks, and this may very well be, a lot of biblical scholars are of the opinion that the book of Job actually predates the writings of Genesis, that Moses is held to have been the one who wrote the first 5 books of the Bible. But it is believed that the character of Job, on whom this account is based, that this individual actually lived before Abraham. Not saying it's a universal opinion, but it is very widely held. This is ancient. This is before Abraham. There's no mention of Abraham here. So there's no God of Abraham, Isaac, and Joseph. It is just the Lord God, creator of all things. And what happens, if you're unfamiliar with Job, what happens is Job is almost a test case of faith, where God allows Satan to destroy Job's life. If you read the beginning of the book, God basically says, what have you been doing, Satan? Satan says, I've been walking up and down God's creation. I've been walking up and down your creation, and boy, is it good. There's greed, there's malice, there's murder, there's rape, there's torture, hey, life is good. And God says, have you considered my servant Job? Honest, faithful, true, acknowledges me, sacrifices. Great guy, this Job. And Satan says, well, of course he, gives you all that. He gives you all the praise, all the honor, all the glory, because you've put a massive hedge around him. You protect him and you've blessed him. He's got more cattle, more sheep, more camels, more everything than everyone. And you poured the blessings on him so much. But if you took that away, if you took away all those blessings, he'd curse you. He would curse you. And so God says, all right, go ahead, but do not harm him. And so Job a decent, honest, faithful, conscientious, all the positive things, has his life turned upside down, but he refuses to curse God. Even his wife is telling him to curse God, and he refuses. But at the end, he does complain. At the end of it all, he does complain to God. And this is what the Lord says to him when he finally speaks and complains. And it starts in verse 38. It's a long book, because what happens is three friends of Job's show up, and they are all trying to give him their advice and tell him why things are happening. Why are bad things happening to good people? You're a good person. Why are bad things happening to you? And this is what the Lord says. Start of chapter 38, book of Job, spelled Job, J-O-B. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind. Who is it that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up your loins like a man. I will question you, and you shall declare to me. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut in the sea with doors, when it burst forth from the womb, when I made clouds its garment, and thick darkness its swaddling band, and prescribed bounds for it, and set bars and doors, and said, thus far you shall come, and no farther. And here shall your proud waves be stayed. Have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the skirts of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it? It is changed like clay under the seal, and it's dyed like a garment. From the wicked their light is withheld, and their uplifted arm is broken. Starting to lose my voice. The word of the Lord, thanks be to God. The notion that this creation that we're all living in, that it is just the result of random accidents, chance occurrences. I don't like to be unkind. And those who hold this view hold themselves in incredibly high esteem. They think they're the smartest of the smart. They think they've tapped into what is believed to be the smart opinion. But to me, it is mind-blowingly stupid to think that this incredibly precise universe with its precise laws, that it came about by accident. That is intellectually, I can't accept it. It's an impossibility. If you move the earth just a little bit closer to the sun, or the moon just a little bit closer to the earth, the law, it's said by others far better than I can put it into words, but it's got to be millions of variables that if they were changed to any meaningful degree one way or another, that all creation, that all life would cease to exist. And there is a God. And the Bible is God manifesting himself to humanity. And Jesus is the Word made flesh. Everyone talks about, many will talk about, and it sounds nice, that whether it be Hinduism or Islam or Judaism or Buddhism or Shintoism or Druze or countless others, or paganism for that matter, that we're all trying to climb the mountain. and that there are different paths up to it. Another saying I've heard is that, you know, all the steeples of all the churches and all the domes of all the mosques and all the roofs of all the temples and sanctuaries and palaces and everything, they all point in the same, we're all aiming toward the same place. And there's a great story about, it's a metaphor, it's a parable about a number of different hikers going up the Himalayan mountains, not at Everest, just going up one of the peaks. And they have a Sherpa guide in Nepal. And this Sherpa guide notes that, well, I see we have a Christian, a Hindu, a Muslim, a Jew, a Buddhist. We got a number of different faith backgrounds. And he said, that's interesting, because when I take you to the top of this mountain that we're going to ascend today, there are numerous routes that I can take you up. There are routes that are quicker but require more strength and endurance. There are other routes that take a lot of strength, and they'll get you to the top very quickly. There are slower routes that don't require quite as much strength, but you need to be enduring. There are other routes that I can take that offer much more scenic views on the way up. And so there's, you know, 7 or 8 different paths I can take you to the summit, but they all end up at the same place. And that's kind of like your different faith backgrounds. You're all going to the same place, but you have different paths to get there. And the Christian at this point interjects and says, well, my God is a little different. The God I worship is a little different. And the Sherpa guide says, how is your God different? And the Christian says, my God came down from the mountain to meet me. That is massive. That is massive. And Jesus Christ changed the world, took the world's greatest empire, and thousands, literally thousands, most estimates say over 10,000 people, rather than renounce their faith in Christ, that they went to death, because Christians realize that this life, that this temporal plane, that this is not our home. This is not our home. And this beastly world wants to rob us of our faith, because when your faith is removed, then this life becomes all there is. And then you can be manipulated through fear over climate change, fear over a disease, fear over war, fear over terrorism, fear over people with differing opinions, people who don't share your worldview, fear, 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 fear. And the Bible says 365 times, fear not. And it's an earnest plea on my part, and I'm sorry it took me so long to get to it. But getting into relationship with Christ is what is needed if you are going to survive the storm that is coming. And there is a storm coming. I don't know how fast. It's on the horizon. It's getting bigger. But how long will it take to get here? I can't say. Months, years. They call it Agenda 2030 for a reason. And it moved into high gear in 2020 in March, when they declared the pandemic and the lockdown measures and the NPIs and everything else. It moved into high gear. It was a plan before that, but that's when it came onto most of our radars, mine certainly. That's when I started to become aware of it. Well, we're only now 4.5 years in. We're only halfway home. We're only halfway to what they view as home. I don't know how far I have to go until I get home. But until that happens, on earth as it is in heaven, give us this day our daily bread and forgive us our trespasses. Because we all have trespasses. We've all sinned. God is the creator of all things, not us. We think because we gain a small understanding in one area of God's magnificent creation, we think that we're God, and we are not. Jesus. And Monarchia says, what is the right way? Jesus Christ. I am the way, the truth, and the life. For the longest time in the early church, read Acts of the Apostles. The early church, the apostles, the followers, Jesus's original disciples and the apostles, and anyone who followed Christ would become a disciple of Christ. They weren't called Christians initially. They were called followers of the way, not a way, the way, definitive article. This is not a way, this is the way. Monarchy has an idea of God, that morphological field of conscious energy underlying the quantum level. I'll understand that when I cross to the other side of the veil. I have had experiences, most often in worship, but also in nature, where I feel like I cannot describe it. It's transcendental. I'm aware, but not aware. I'm part of something bigger than myself, and I am at total peace. And then, unfortunately, and I think it's just, this temporal existence, as soon as I become aware of it, that's when it fades away like a disappearing dream. I'm going to read, Crypt Miriam was writing Galatians 3, 28, 29. Let's see what it says in Galatians. It's one of Paul's letters. Paul wrote lots of letters. Okay, those are the pastoral letters. And they tend to be in order of length. I'm not great in that. I don't always remember. There we go, Galatians. What did you write? Chapter 3, verses 28 and 29. Let's see what it says. "28. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither slave nor free, there is neither male nor female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. And if you are Christ, then you are Abraham's offspring, heirs according to promise." We are, when we come into glory, we're not going to be Jews or Gentiles or Greek or slave or free when we come into glory. God laid out a promise to Abraham. And then through Christ, that promise was extended to anyone who accepts Christ into his or her heart as Lord and Savior. And demonstrative of that commitment, of that acceptance, of that alignment of the heart to Christ is repentance. And it's that's something I'm starting to examine more and more in my own life. Are there things that I need to repent of? Are there things that I need to do? It's not a bargain. Well, I can, I've got this vice, I have this sin, but I'm covered by the blood of the Lamb. It's where Paul writes in one of his other letters that we all have to work out our own salvation through fear and trembling. That is the starting point of all wisdom, is knowledge of and fear of God. Yeah, God is worthy to be afraid of. But not anything on this temporal plane, not the outcome of the U.S. political process, not the environment, not the pending war, certainly not this garbage that's going on in the Olympics. It's an earnest plea. I hope It's difficult to do this over the internet. I'm going to read. Anne Markey writes something that I love. Nature is a cathedral. No, when I was attending some outdoor worship services during COVID, because indoor meetings were restricted, even outdoor was, but some churches ignored it and would meet outside. And I went to Trinity Church in Kitchener, up near St. Jacob's. Trinity Baptist, I think that's the name of it. Jacob Rayom was the pastor. Met him, and they took his building away because he refused to bow down to the what he saw as all the lies. And I'm saying it, in that cagey fashion again. And so I went out and I met, and there's a Pentecostal church here in town that I also met with outdoors. And I said, no ceiling of any church, not even the Sistine Chapel in Rome, can compare to God's gorgeous creation. Just look at the sky. Amonarchy says, I have cheat sheets. Well, I do. I have this, and there's my cheat sheet. Little notes. I have a bad habit of leaving. When I make a list up, I'll forget something if I just try and keep it in the head. I like to have a little crib note. TJ is back. Good to see you. And we are all part of something bigger, and we're going to find out. And we're going to find out when we cross the veil. This life is not the end. Human beings, we are energy, and energy can neither be created nor destroyed. That's another one of the laws of thermodynamics. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can merely it changes form. This is not who we are. No, tobacco, I don't. Anna Markey's asking what my worst vice is, and it's not tobacco. Tobacco comes out of the ground. All the chemicals and stuff they put into it, and the paper they surround it with, I think that's what's bad for you. I don't think tobacco in of itself is necessarily, not a medical doctor, I've just done some reading on studies. Lust. I'll put it right out there. Lust. I share it with King David and King Solomon and a lot of men. And I have a dirty mind at times. That's just being honest. Anyway, I'm just going to read this up. TJ says, I feel how fear is rising. People are more and more easily triggered. That's by design. That's the enemy at work. We see ourselves as gods in our own eyes. So that which we believe has to, people view their being triggered. They view themselves as having righteous anger. They consider their anger and their, reaction to be righteous, to be correct, because they know the ultimate truth. Gender is just a societal construct, and you can be whatever you want to be, and anyone who doesn't share that opinion is aggressive, and they're hateful, and they're every negative word under the sun. I'm just reading and seeing Whale Oil Beef writes, in my opinion, if and when we do learn where we physically live, only then will we have a true understanding of God. Each of us blessed it. It's difficult to put things into words, and it's difficult to do this live stream where I'm just looking at myself. I much prefer it in conversation. And Cryptomeria smokes like a chimney. I smoke too much. And it does impact my health. I mean, the cough. If I didn't smoke, I wouldn't have that cough. My throat wouldn't get raked out. I wouldn't have to hydrate. So TJ says lust is a big one. They say money makes the world go round. Sometimes I think lust is often ahead of it. And monarchy, maybe not MT worse, but yeah. Anyway, Sheriff is writing, good evening, ladies and gents, girly boys. Cryptomeria, woohoo, I wish I could identify as a millionaire. You know, and that's there. You want another vice, avarice. Avarice, greed. Desire. One of the commandments, covetousness, to covet, to desire, to want. Should aim. I'll do my next video of a faith-based nature on this idea of covetousness and what Jesus said during I believe it was during his Sermon on the Mount, when he talked about why do you worry? Why do you worry? Why do you worry about what you'll have to eat, about the clothes you wear? Look at the lilies of the field. Look at the sparrows. And aim for the highest possible good, and all that will flow. All that will come. God will look after you. Anyway. Oh, thank you, Anne Monarchy. You're right. See, I haven't said anything to be embarrassed about. Never be embarrassed about speaking the truth. And even if I'm wrong on things, and I'm sure I am from time to time, I've no malicious intent. And Cryptomeria says, I'm not talking to myself. No, you guys are what make these lives enjoyable for me, and I've gone on way too long. Now it's 2:50. It's coming up on 3 o'clock in the morning. I did have a nap after work today. I did work. I worked a 9-hour shift. So anyway, I'm going to end it the way I like to end it. I didn't end the last one this way, and I didn't realize it until afterwards. But may the Lord bless and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. And may the Lord grant you and me, may he grant all of us peace. So we'll probably talk to you tomorrow night. All right? I will. Thanks. And everyone else, sleep well. We'll talk to you all soon.